In order to help me help you, I want to be as specific as I can. I'm going to really focus in. I'm going to leave all the stories out because I have 30 minutes with you and I want to get to some questions and I'm honored that you're here. So let's get right into it and I want to know who I'm speaking to. So you're here for this thing on diabetes, heart disease, cancer, Candida, digestive disorder. How many people are here for the diabetes part? And how many people are here for the heart disease part? And how many people are here for the fitness part? Ah, interesting. And the cognitive problems, if you don't know what that is, you have them. And digestive disorders, Candida, maybe one or two. So here's the concept. When things work, when people have insights, they didn't give us more information. We don't need more information. We're drowning in information. It's not about getting more information. It's about connecting the dots in order to streamline the information, come up with new insight from the information we already have. So I'm going to take the nutritional information and the sports information and the health information that you guys already have, and I want to flip it over and look at it from a completely different angle today, as if you all were European and I was American. We're going to look at it from another side. So let's take some information that we already have that's been around for a long time and then use that to build the answer to the various questions, situations, and problems that we described in the title of the talk. How many people were here for Christine's talk? Okay, so you saw how distracted she was. I'm focused on y'all, so you know. What we learned in 1959, because nutrition is a brand new science. People have been looking at the stars for a long time, but nutrition is a brand new science. We didn't even know there were nutrients until about 100 years ago. We didn't have the words protein and carbohydrate and fat, let alone vitamins and minerals and enzymes and coenzymes and antioxidants and phytonutrients and all little things. And people still haven't figured out whether water is a nutrient or not, or if it's something to dilute the other nutrients in. They don't know whether fiber is a nutrient or not, or whether it's something that you carry through in order to let the other nutrients work. It doesn't matter. The squirrels don't keep track of their protein, and the deer don't worry about their calcium, and the whales don't worry about where do they get their essential fatty acids. We just eat species-specific diets. If you were a zookeeper, you wouldn't feed the animals based on zinc and cobalt and iron. You don't even have to think about that stuff in order to be well nourished. In fact, how many people in this room are somewhat nutrition aware, pretty nutrient savvy, even concerned about nutrition? Oddly enough, you guys probably eat better than their next door neighbors. Your next door neighbors should be concerned about nutrition, not you. You eat better already. How much more could you possibly do? Okay, there's room to make little improvements, but the big improvements actually are going to come from little things. It's the difference between, did you ever balance rocks one on top of another? You know, like it's either balanced or they fall. It's either right or it's wrong. And in the world of nutrition, it's either right or it's wrong. And people want to have this huge gray area, like sometimes I do this, but most of the time I eat pretty good. I love the guys. I eat perfectly, 100% perfectly, 80% of the time. It's like, nah, that's really not going to do it. Think of the way you eat as if it was your relationship with your partner. How about if you're like 100% committed in your relationship 80% of the time? That's not going to work. And the same thing happens with our food. It's either our food either builds us, helps us, support us, or it takes us down a road we don't want to go. In 1959, in the Journal of American Medical Association, an article published explaining what happens to our blood sugar. Everyone has blood sugar. You have to have blood sugar. There's nothing you can do about it. All the cells of your body are fueled by sugar. In 1959, an article on blood sugar came out explaining a fact that showed as the fat in your diet went upwards, your ability to process sugar went down. So if we put sugar over here and fat over here, as the fat went up, our ability to process sugar goes down. We have 100% over here, we've got 0 over here, and as fat goes up, our sugar abilities go down. If we put 0 here and 100 here, so you can get the scale of things. The idea wasn't so much how we use the sugar, but how we access the sugar. The problem, it turned out, is getting the sugar out of your blood. It has to go through your blood and then out. And in order to get out, it uses doormen. It uses some helpers. Some of those helpers you may have heard of. One of them is called insulin. Insulin function becomes compromised as the fat in our diet goes up. 1959, they showed this as the result of years of ongoing study and said conclusively that the more fat in your diet, not how fat you are, the amount of fat you eat as a percentage of your total calories, the more fat you eat, the harder for sugar to get out of your bloodstream. It nullifies the function of insulin. This is important to a diabetic because if you can't get sugar out of your bloodstream, you're pretty much describing diabetes, and you get higher and higher levels of blood sugar. 1 month ago, I ran a program for a week. We took a bunch of type 2 diabetics. We put them on a diet with no fat whatsoever, other than the fat that was in the fruits and vegetables they ate. We put them on a diet of fruits and vegetables for a week. At the end of a week, they were off medications. No more insulin. No more diabetes. Some of them were off medication in 48 hours. Some of them took 72, and the stubborn ones took 5 days, and they had no more diabetes. It was over, thing of the past. These were hardcore type 2 diabetics, and they had no more diabetes simply by reducing the fat in their diet. But it wasn't newsworthy. The information came out in 1959. We know already that the more fat there is in your bloodstream, the less oxygen your body can carry. You've all seen on television or maybe in real life what's called a pulse oximeter. It sits on this finger, they put it on this finger, and it's a little thing sticks on the finger, and it's called a pulse oximeter. It tells you how much oxygen is in your blood. How well are you processing the oxygen? In ICU, it matters like crazy, but to you it doesn't matter. But if you have emphysema, it matters. If you have congestive heart failure, it matters. If you're having breathing difficulties, if you have pulmonary disease, it matters how well you process your oxygen. Who else does it matter to? It matters to athletes. Athletes process massive amounts of oxygen while they go through their sporting activities. Could you imagine the athlete who's having trouble breathing? That's not a workable combination. We don't want your breathing to be impaired. Neither does a person with emphysema or pulmonary disease want their ability to breathe impaired. And in 1959, we had already shown that our ability to process oxygen was affected in the exact same way as our ability to process sugar. That the more fat in the diet, the less well we process our oxygen. We can get it into the bloodstream. We can't get it out. Now, you don't end up with more and more and more oxygen in your bloodstream, but it doesn't get to the tissues that it's supposed to get to. This affects the athlete. This affects you. How many times have you found yourself in a room where there wasn't enough oxygen and you start getting sleepy, or you're not thinking really clearly? We have the expression, like a breath of fresh air. It just wakes you right up. Now I'm thinking clearly. For cognitive abilities, your ability to think clearly, you need to get oxygen to your cells. But your brain runs on one fuel only. Glucose, sugar. Your brain runs on sugar. If it can't get sugar and it can't get oxygen, you're not going to be thinking clearly. I'm not against fat. You gotta have fat. How much? Enough. Not enough is a problem. Too much is a problem. So we go back to the zoo, and lo and behold, the antelopes are being fed antelope food, and the zebras are being fed zebra food, and the armadillos are being given armadillo food. And if you were in the zoo, what would the zookeeper feed you? Would he be feeding you pizza and hamburgers and chips and fried fish? No, that's not people food. We eat that stuff hoping for a miracle, hoping to get away with it. You know what I'm talking about? Guys, hoping to get away with it? You can't get away with it when it comes down to what you put in your body, because our experience of life is linear, it's cumulative. What you did in your teens and your 20s and your 30s and your 40s, you're paying for now. You want to have a long, healthy life, it's time to start living as if your lifestyle mattered. You can't affect your genetics, but you can affect your lifestyle. I had a guy, 89 years old, call me up one day on the telephone. He says, I want to become a raw vegan. I go, why do you want to become a raw vegan? He says, because my wife is 60. I go, okay, it's good enough for me. I said, you're 89 years old. How long do you want to go through the transition process? He says, I'm 89 years old. The transition process is today. We do it instantly. I'm shocked because young people are notorious for their impatience, their sense of urgency. And it would seem to me that as we get older, our sense of urgency should increase. I'm aware that the meter is running. My sense of urgency keeps growing. I'm shocked at how complacent most people are about their health. If you want to improve your health, we're going to reduce the fat in our diet. We've gotten used to eating a lot of fat, more than we need. If we get more fat than we need, we have two options. We either get not enough carbohydrate, or we get too much fat and enough carbohydrate and we gain weight. Gaining weight is way cool. If you gain 2 kilos a year, every year, forever, you'll never wrinkle. But that's the only upside. Eventually you'll have folds, but you won't wrinkle. In a very simplistic way, as we increase the fruits and vegetables in our diet and bring fats down to acceptable levels, we improve our ability to uptake, transport, and deliver oxygen and carbohydrate to our cells. This means getting the sugar out of your blood. No more diabetes. No more Candida. No more digestive disorders, because we're eating food that is species specific to us. You never have to say, oh, it must have been something I ate, because we're eating fruits and vegetables. We don't have those kinds of problems. You know exactly what you ate. Is there anything on the list I didn't even cover? It's done. I mean, it took moments to explain this. It's a very simple thing. To the athlete, there are no secrets. I'll talk more about athletic performance, but to the athlete, there are no secrets. Fruits and vegetables are our foods. The secret for people is that we're so unused to eating fruits and vegetables that most of us have no idea how much is enough. We know how many slices of pizza, we know how many sandwiches, we know if you're not going to eat again for the next 6 hours, you know exactly how much food to eat to hold you for 6 hours. But if all I'm going to give you is pineapple, you go, I don't have no idea how much pineapple to eat, so it'll be enough for 6 hours. If all I'm going to give you are bananas, how many bananas do you eat? It's going to take some practice to become familiar with healthy eating. This is stuff that we could have and should have learned when we were kids, and we missed out. We totally missed out. Anybody here raised as a raw food vegan? No, none of us. So we don't have that experience of knowing what people food really is. And all we know is what we've been raised with. We've come to think of that as normal. I like to hike. I love to go out in the outdoors. I ride my bicycle for hours through the woods, and I really like it. Spent a lot of time in the outdoors. In my entire life, I've never seen a pizza tree. Never seen a cheese sandwich bush. They don't exist. This is not real food. We've come to think of it, and I'm familiar with it too. I know there's Chinese restaurants and French restaurants and all that kind of stuff. But really, fruits and vegetables are people food. Every time we stray from fruits and vegetables, we've lost the plot. Now, I have as much fun eating my food as anybody ever had. And I was raised on a standard Western diet, and I liked that food too. It tasted good, but it didn't treat me well. I loved it. It didn't love me. I want to eat food that, there's an old expression, go to health. You know, how many people here want to go to health? And there is a TH on the end of that. All right. What I'm going to do is, instead of talking about treating disease, preventing disease, avoiding disease, there's no focus on disease at all. All we're going to talk about is causing health. If you can cause health in your lifestyle, then you're going in a direction that's healthy. And if you had a house plant, you would give it healthy conditions. You don't try to prevent diseases. If you have a cat or a dog, you give it healthy conditions. If you have children, you try to raise them healthfully. You give them healthy conditions. You don't prevent disease. If you're trying to raise a prize hog, you give it the conditions it needs. It really doesn't matter if it's African violets. Why for us do we switch that around to try to prevent disease rather than simply cause health? If you're straying from fruits and vegetables, you've missed the plot. I still love my fruits and vegetables just as much as any other diet. It's our natural food. Is there anybody here like fruit? Like, yeah, you can go around the world, and around the world, people like fruit because it's our natural